Thank you all for suggesting names for my JoJo fan stand. I purposefully only presented the design with no further details just to get names off vibes alone, and y'all gave lots of fun ideas. Space themed ones too, expectedly enough given the cosmic design, and even a few suggesting Starman, a song pretty much now synonymous with Superman as a whole, and keeping in line with stands being named after songs. And some... But the winner is Across the Universe, as suggested by Mr. Red 14. This perfectly fits both its cosmic design and references a famous song, by the Beatles specifically. Now, the main power I envision for Across the Universe, or ATU for friends, is called All Chapter. Basically, it can extract books out of anything or anyone it touches, and those books contain everything there is to know about the target. That information is then sent to my brain in a quick yet stable fashion. Yeah, I decided to go for a non-combat stand because, let's be honest dude, I'm a Kryptonian. I got physical stats covered, okay? On to the video. It has been said that my Requiem does not express the fear of death, and someone has called it a lullaby of death. But it is thus that I see death, as a happy deliverance, an aspiration towards happiness above, rather than a painful experience. In music terminology, requiems are songs composed specifically to honor the dead. Famous examples include Giuseppe Verdi's Dies Irae, Mozart's Unfinished Requiem, or the one from the man behind the quote you just heard, Gabriel Fauré, who has definitely a more lighthearted stance on the topic than most. And when I found out that the musical track for Joker vs Giorno was gonna be called Requiem for a Thief, with the track art featuring Joker's mask being set ablaze and me rooting for the leader of the Phantom Thieves, needless to say, I wasn't that worried. Yes, obviously I know it's a double meaning towards Giorno's ultimate stand, and both Bill and Discord warned me about these tracks not deciding the winner. But to have this information in mind while witnessing Joker defy all odds, counter one of the most OP moves in fiction and pull a W, I can't help but wonder if, in a meta sense, the song was meant to be a requiem for Joker and he simply refused to go along with what fate was singing for him, in true wildcard fashion. And that is honestly only one of the many aspects that makes this whole episode so amazing, including a secret bonus ending. In case you're new, hi, I'm Mark of Krypton. Do make sure to like, comment and subscribe for more Death Battle goodness, or other things, I'm in other fandoms too after all. But now strap in as we review the second episode of Death Battle Season 2024, Joker vs Giorno Giovanna, aka if your enemy is a spirit summoning chaotic good fella straight out of part 5, little are the chances that you'll survive, aka Death Battle somehow managed to get right a very complex and convoluted matchup in a simple and straightforward manner, yet completely botched the actually simple and straightforward matchup. Only on Death Battle. First things first, I gotta ask why these introductory slides go by so quickly. I can understand chopping things down for budgetary reasons, being independent now after all, or trying to cater to the TikTok, brain-rot real attention span of modern audiences. But like, it almost feels like a speedrun attempt of sorts, I just don't get it. That's without getting into how I vastly prefer the intro approach from Season 10, aka name title series, then the main core theme / connection. I always liked that, you know, it just felt right. But now without the core theme, it just feels incomplete. And people have to either already know the core connections, or we get to understand them once the breakdowns are over. Since not everyone is a connections obsessed maniac like me though, let's just get into the actual breakdowns, and oh boy, let me tell you. These breakdowns are what I like to call functionally perfect. There's a big reason why I always include breakdowns in my reviews, reactions and rankings. I consider them as important as the battle itself. Either you already know one of both characters and get a refresher, or you don't know one or the other and you're introduced to new franchises. And either way you get the great editing, jokes and easy ways to comprehend the characters' powers and equipment. To me at least, they're like the first two acts of a film, the reason why a third act is so much. The Chekhov's gun being picked up and used. I started this video talking about music, so might as well keep that going, because the background music chosen for Joker's breakdown is just perfect. The smooth jazzy music when introducing the verse, matter or not, the rock when getting to the action, the tense piano when getting into the serious stuff, and the upbeat, very happy ending coded rock when getting to the final part. That's without getting into the flawless medium blending between Persona's game and anime, the great editing, the various nods to fandom inside jokes such as Goro Cupcakes Akechi or Joker's amazing dancing skills and neutral special, the social link gag that actually makes great usage of Wits and Boomstick returning avatars. I honestly love the importance they place on friendship, social bonds and teamwork in this whole section, given how vital they are to the themes of Persona. Literally, since they can bring you back from the dead. It was obviously impossible to go over every persona in Joker's arsenal, but they do go over the stuff that matters, such as the various elemental effects like ice stuff or the destructive attacks like nukes, which both come into the fight in one form or the other, and this great synergy is precisely what sets the difference between a good and great Dead Battles episode, for me at least. Plus, come on, the way they describe things is just so cool. Joker dodging galactic light beams, tanking Big Bang attacks, summoning the Angel of freaking Vengeance with a reality warping bypassing gun, then he about his opponent literally creating life and rewinding reality, and people with no idea about the infamy of this matchup now understand the big toss up it was always seen as, till now at least. Speaking of Giorno, his breakdown is also pretty great. In true JoJo fashion, not only is the background music awesome, but I love how larger than life it feels compared to Ren's. It feels fabulous, suspenseful, whimsical, even cinematic at points, yet it all ends on a soft and gentle piano at the end, which to my understanding describes Giorno's character to a T. And yes, we will get into why he's presented so menacingly in a fight, worry not. Again, I honestly believe every single joke lands, which is pretty rare, and they accomplish that without Wiz and Boomstick always being on screen. This is highlighted by the great synergy, yeah, this is my favorite word for the video apparently, between what they say and the clip that plays in the background to accompany such quips, such as making Giorno seem as if he's actually saying the classic "that's right Boomstick," or using Diavolo's mental breakdown to represent Boomsticks. If this is the balance they intend to go for now on with a budgetary situation, I am all 100% for it. With Joker, both in the battle and breakdown, they really emphasize the gentleman thief aspect, be it with the Arsene persona, the grappling hook, smoke bombs, guns, carnival-like mask, whereas with Giorno they focus more on the gangster side of things, with the various Godfather, Sopranos and Goodfellas reference. So despite both combatants being rebels that strive for positive changes by working outside the law alongside their teammates, and both starting from grounded backgrounds before acquiring powers that challenge the cosmic laws of reality itself, both breakdowns end up having their own distinct identity. Other highlights include establishing Giorno's very creative life powers with snakes and insects, which both appear in the fight, so again some great synergy between the writing and animation, the unexpected but welcome linguistic lessons about Italian, and casual lore drop about Jesus being a JoJo, which to my understanding is an actual thing in the current JoJo universe. And my favorite part of the breakdown as a whole, the great editing, humor and gangster references all culminate together for this one bit where Boomstick parallels the effect of Golden Experience Requiem to the Mafia life pulling up back in just when you thought you were out. Clever choice there. Also look at that, final slice right before the fight that actually match. Fight. Oh right, there's a juicy fight animation to go over now. Let's get it.
Gold experience!
Go, Arsene! Giorno Giovanna, your heart is twisted.
It is ours to take.
Right off the bat, I love the various nods to the Persona games, be it the loading screen with Giorno's ladybug, the text fonts for all the Joker attacks, the damage points taken during the 7 seconds long stand rush, much like the 7 pages long in the one in the manga, that's a nice reference, the absorb attack sound whenever Giorno knows Joker's attacks, or the infinite amounts of damage he takes from the last punch, with just a chef kiss or perfectly visually conveying how many mechanics / reality breaking stuff these fellas can pull. But let's rewind for a bit. As I said in my reaction, I love the tingly official crossover-esque feel I get whenever characters in these fights refer to each other by name. I really do. Although I would not personally want it to be the standard, because as we see in this very fight, combatants surprising each other with their powers, an arsenal is always a treat.
Shoki Phantasmi, my dreams aren't yours to take.
Persona! He'll never see it coming.
First time that battle voice actor Kieran Regan voices Giorno. While I'm less familiar with the character as a whole, I do think he does a great job, especially with the Italian words. Trust me, I am a native Italian speaker, I can verify your mamma mias. Ironically, since the Japanese boy has a surname that sounds like Mamma Mia. Speaking of, Joker is voiced by returning Dead Battle voice actor Kevin Rivera. in his second time voicing an RPG character and fell in love after fighting Joker's official English voice actor last time. I think he does a pretty damn spot on Xander impression though. And yes, like many reactors, I mistook Giorno's imbuing Joker with golden life energy, accelerating his perception of time beyond his body, for return to zero. Look, in my defense, they emphasize on that a lot in the last part of the analysis, even with the gun analogy, and my thoughts during a reaction will always be more scrambled and less attentive than a review I take the time to write and reflect on. But what both my past and current self very much pleasantly notice, however, is the amazing animation in this fight. The sprite work is honestly like 95% perfect. Only iffy parts are when they feel a bit stiff. Why is the 15-year-old moving like a grumpy 19-year-old here? Running the mafia sure seems stressful. At first I was a bit about Giorno getting such beautifully and drawn frames while Joker gets this, but what this really is a pretty great nod to the respective mediums. Of course the anime fella gets the 2D goodness, while the video game fella gets a 3D goodness, and they all look visually stunning, so they just 4 W's in a row. Not to mention the 3D Golden Palace background looking nothing short of beautiful. Yeah, let's talk about Giorno having a palace in the first place, because from what I've seen, this is a bit of a controversial decision. Okay, so in the Persona series, the Phantom Thief's main goal is to steal distorted desires and force corrupt fellas to turn good, doing this by entering the mental palace and defeating their shadow. I've seen many say that Giorno, being a friendly neighborhood gangster that wants to use the mafia to create an Italy free of drugs, should not count as quote having distorted enough desires to have a palace, like many villains in Persona do. However, unless I got something wrong, even Persona 5 tends to be a bit pick and choosy about what counts as quote distorted, such as with my rookie, who had zero desires to harm mankind but did have a palace because his immense reality warping power was too much for one person to responsibly handle. And with Giorno being a 15-year-old with the power to literally create life, rewind reality, and the ambitions to remold the concept of justice as a whole, I don't think it's too far-fetched to have a palace, by Persona 5's own metrics. Golden Experience Requiem could honestly end the universe if it got out of control, so the black flapping outfit wearing, grappling hook using, ironically named Joker decided to channel his inner Batman and take no chances. Not to mention how the Phantom Thieves also have a strict no-kill code, and Giorno is one of the JoJos with the higher body count in the series, so yeah, they aren't gonna like that. This would normally include not killing the shadow sighter, aka the corrupted parts of the target, since that would turn them into a vegetable in the real world. But since that battle removes inhibitions against Needle Force, yeah, but stay tuned for when we talk about the bonus ending in the storyboards, because things get very interesting there. I think it's very underrated how Giorno's stand is portrayed in this episode. Instead of feeling like a weapon like both previous stand users fights, I really like how it truly feels like Giorno's spiritual bodyguard homie of sorts, powering Arsene attacks in a very David vs Goliath type of shot, not blocking what he knows his stand master will be unaffected by, assisting him in and out of risky situations, and the passionate screams as he tries its best to stop the sinful shell from hitting his master. All great stuff. And to my knowledge, this is also very true to Golden Experience characterization in the series itself, who at some point apparently even develops sentience and still decides to protect Giorno no matter what. That's both awesome and wholesome. Speaking of the bond between Stand and Standmaster, this part right here combined with the music is hype as fuck. Ditto for the part that follows. I love how this battle full of spirits, matter transmutation and physics bending, reality bending bullets features something as basic as good old fisticuffs. And I dig how Giorno is the one delivering them, since from what I've seen it does seem to be the more, how to say, streetwise of the two, whereas Joker fights are more akin to Pokemon battles. I know this tag team approach isn't 1% accurate to how stand users fight in JoJo, except for Giorno's best friend Bruno Bucciarati, funny enough, whose name is the closest thing to an actual Italian name I've ever seen in JoJo. I still think it's cool as hell. And hey, there's nothing canonically stopping stand users from fighting like this anyway. Fun fact, back in my elementary school, we actually had a name for this two-way beating, where A holds you back while B pummels your stomach. We called it All'Americana, aka American style. No clue where that came from, nothing pops up when I look it up, but it was probably just a bunch of classmates that saw this movie in some American action films, and they just assumed it was a strictly USA thing.
Alice!
Impossible. A second stand. His persona creates life. got to nullify that.
Speaking of assumptions, I weirdly enough really like how entertainingly wrong they are about each other in this fight. Like, Giorno thinks Joker has multiple stands, Joker thinks Giorno has a powerful persona, and funniest of all, Joker saying,
Maybe you didn't hear me before. Checkmate.
Checkmate.
It's particularly funny because my brother and Joshua banned Joseph. You said that while your mind was temporarily displaced from your body. Of course they didn't hear you. But Joker has no idea about what happened in that moment, so he just goes by what he knows, Dio for Giorno. And I love this type of writing because it feels so organic for both. Also, you know, it's double funny since Giorno hates repetitions and Joker is usually a silent protect. I have seen people say that Joker's win was obvious, given how much more time he spends on the back foot in this animation, but I respectfully disagree. It does get some leaks and surprises in, such as the fire curse thingy I refuse to pronounce, escaping golden experience, forcing Giorno to summon an entire forest of vines just to get out of an explosive predicament, which was caused by a crazy-eyed smiling girl summoning an army of killer teddy bears against a purple guy in his spiritual linked yellow armor. Yeah, it's probably nothing. Unless, another highlight of the fight is Joker using his intelligence correctly deduced that the living beings created by Giorno cannot survive glacial temperatures, which funny enough is an actual weakness of golden experience established in Giorno, which then forces Giorno to whip out the big guns and activate GER. The pacing of this fight, how one action leads to the other, all the way to the climax, honestly works really well in my eyes. The way Giorno's frankly unpredictable powers counter the relatively straightforward monster Joker can throw at him kinda reminds me of how Gojo's Limitless bounces off against Makima's levels. I know I make this comparison all the time, but unstoppable versus a movable object is one of my favorite tropes ever and just can't help but bringing it up.
All objects given life by gold experience desire to return home.
The way Giorno openly describes his powers, while undoubtedly very JoJo, and funnily enough giving the information Joker needed to counter it, nice deconstruction of the trope there, also has some great delivery. I love how firmly yet softly he declares that the bullets Joker himself fired, that got turned to a jazz-loving money collectors, will now return to Joker's gun, causing it to explode. It's great that he gets to showcase his intelligence too, but the delivery specifically reminds me of Pandora from Week Zero when she softly just decides that Hercules was now suddenly always at home with his wives.
I believe Bishop Cornea shouldn't be with us any longer. He'll be in his own mansion, surrounded by his wives.
What?
I can't wait until this character is defeated, by the way. If Regulus has 100 haters, I am all of them. Wait, why am I hearing a piano? Requiem for a Thief is yet another 11 out of 10 banger, but for very different reasons compared to Solid State Invincible. Instead of taking cues from either Winter Sonata or Hell Over Heaven, the last Persona episode and the one starring Giorno's father respectively, making for a trilogy of sorts, it takes after the main leitmotifs of Persona 5 and JoJo's Golden Wind respectively, aka Last Surprise, and Il Vento d'Oro. God, it feels so good to be able to speak Italian in a video. Both blended together in a way only rivaled by Fireborn in terms of representing the music of both series. Granted, the overall jazziness and epic vocals are definitely more on the Persona side of things, but you can very much hear a familiar piano towards the end. The lyrics bring a decent balance of references between both combatants, with a cheeky nod about the "show's over" from Joker's all-out attack, and that bell returning for the dead after Rooster Teeth closure. The track art could have been a bit more spectacular looking, especially given the visual and musical marvels it's linked to, but it's honestly perfectly fine. Now, this is for the musical themes. But if you remember my season 10 reviews, I also talked about the narrative themes of this episode. What clash of ideas these themes is presented beneath the flashy looking attacks? Believe it or not, especially considering the existence of Dio vs Alucard, I do think you could make a strong case about Joker vs Giorno actually being Hell vs Heaven. Think about it. As the analysis went over, Giorno is the son of a guy whose name translates to God, he battles someone whose name translates to devil, banishing him into what was essentially hell, his life force shenanigans could essentially pass off as miracles, and his golden motif certainly adds to that divine horror. In contrast, Joker is a wild card, a rebel, not unlike the most famous rebel in history, Satan, who he can literally summon in the battlefield. His visual motifs also bring a lot of emphasis on red, black, like fire and ashes, blue flames, chains, and I mean, just look at that scene. Also, remember the killer teddy bear girl from earlier, Alice? Yeah, apparently she's a demon, like straight up. In the fight itself, Giorno sits on a pope-like golden throne in a palace with stained glass windows not unlike a church, and Joker literally breaks out of the hell he previously banished Diavolo to, with the power of Satan, anime, and this gun he found. The one who defeated God now defeats the Son of God. Didn't expect the anime fight to get so biblical, did ya?
This Joker Phantasma is justice. This is Requiem.
I love how utterly terrifying the Joker looks of Golden Experience Requiem. It's 50% funny, 50% fully understandable, because have you seen the stare on this sleep paralysis demon Giorno calls a friend? Big Jesus. One small itsy bitsy correction though is that while the This is Requiem is very greatly delivered and animated, it should technically be Golden Experience Requiem the one saying this, since Giorno himself is canonically unaware of this power to my knowledge. But hey, maybe they spoke before the fight, I don't know, I don't wanna get into the personal biz. After a crazy barrage of fists, Joker takes infinite amount of damage, and yes, while he does actually die here, I do think it's a pretty decent fake out, because so much happened before this that, at least to my brain, they generally believed it for a second. Until...
Hey, are you okay? Joker?
Won't allow it, Joker!
Keep fighting! You can do it! Snap
you
out
die
of it!
now,
Joker,
Joker's got
I'll
it!
kill you again myself.
Saturnalia!
Okay, so for those who didn't fully get this scene, it's basically Joker being thrown into Giorno's infinite death loop, ending up in a scene very reminiscent of essentially a bad ending from Persona 5, where Joker is about to be shot in the head. Why do that battle death loops always start with guns, as a Golden Aura and JoJo Kenji slowly fill the screen before it being replaced by blue, as a butterfly of Philemon, spiritual guide of Source and Persona series, passes by and Joker triumphantly breaks out on one of the most inescapable attacks in all of anime. You probably heard all the praises of the scene already, but Joker willing himself back to life through the words of encouragement of his friends Futaba, Yuzuke, Sumire, Han, Rao, Yuji and Akechi, the last two voices being specifically his best friend and his alleged boyfriend according to the fandom, is both chills inducing, very sweet, and 100% in the spirit of Persona as a series. Also works as a neat reference to when fellow wildcard Persona 4 protag Yu Narukami did a similar stunt. Funnily enough, GR kinda screwed itself over, because by sheer virtue of being a dead loop where the death is always reset to 0, it actually gave Joker a golden opportunity to do all this. After quoting his Persona 5 royal self when he defeated Maruki,
Maybe you didn't hear me before.
Checkmate. Be gone.
Joker shoots Sinful Shell. I'm praising Joker's victory quite a lot, but don't leave Giorno and GR out of this either. Being able to slow down what would normally be an insta-kill move like this is very noteworthy. I especially dig the subtle breaks in reality when these two forces collide. Way more blink and you miss it compared to previous reality breaks in the show, but really did convey how GR had a chance for 2 full seconds. I've seen folks being a bit confused at this zero experience thingy, At first I thought it was a very simple Requiem joke, since golden experience, return to 0, come on. But apparently in Persona, if you have all the stats maxed out, you don't gain experience anymore, like in Minecraft, which is evidenced by Jack Frost busting out an attack that's apparently only possible if you're on level 99 or some shit. And that battle takes the characters to the peak, so all is well and good. And while this amount of yen might sound a bit cheap for Giorno when translated into dollars, it's actually an Easter egg about the original release date of Super Mario Bros. In Japan, which is definitely a nod to the following episode. The explanation is, again, surprisingly straightforward. Between Joker taking all the normal stats and almost all of them against Requiem, we like the visual touches of his advantage, going from red to costing yellow, almost as if GR was reversing him during the breakdown. And the reaction of exasperated tone of defeat followed by ignoring boomstick pun was just better than any comment Whis could have made. Great humor in this episode. Yes, this end screen is definitely as hilarious as people say, but it's also pretty telling that GR was such an immensely potent stand they still made what would be an otherwise storm debatable. They've really been doing a great job at giving losers their flowers in the past 2 or 3 seasons. I think Welcome Brew V8 said it best. Dio Card at the JoJo brutality, then Jonathan at the JoJo emotions, but this has the JoJo style. And not just that. Alright, so for this season I decided that each review will have a bonus chapter of sorts. For Omni-Man vs Bardock it was the debunk. For this it'll be something I like to call Secret Ending / The Shadow of Dio. So, shortly after the episode came out, John Mitchell dropped the storyboards for this fight. Overall, I'm pretty sure they managed to integrate pretty much everything, which is great. But the most interesting detail comes at the end, where we are met with an epilogue, quote, made for fun. After Joker kills Giorno's shadow self in his palace, we cut to the real Giorno at an airport, seemingly ready for a flight to Florida, before succumbing to the mental shutdown that comes from killing one shadow. Then GR rewinds it, saving Giorno. This means 2 things. My fears of GR doing some time rewinding shit at the DKO were ultimately 100% justified, and number 2, Giorno is the only Death Battle loser who manages to avoid death entirely. Not even Discord can boast as much. But jokes aside, once Giorno recovers, he now suddenly decides to whip his ticket and not take the flight. Say, it's not like it would be the end of the world if he misses it.
Are you sure about that?
Okay, so in JoJo Bizarre Adventure, once Giorno's story ends, the main villain that takes center stage is Father Enrico Pucci, Dio's most devout follower, who plans to essentially reset the entire universe. And when the good guys assemble to take him down before that happens, Giorno is nowhere to be seen, and we don't get a canonical explanation why. To make a long story short, the universe is ultimately reset, creating a new continuity entirely, so the world did kinda end there, JoJo, but I'm hesitant about fully blaming you for that. Point stands, this battle gave us a reason why Giorno refused to join in with Dio's other sons and Pucci, deciding to reform Passione instead into an even better force of good, since Joker killed the darkest part of his soul, the one that resembles his father the most. One of my favorite villain tropes is something called Villainous Legacy, where basically a villain's influence keeps affecting the story even long after they're dead. JoJo does this with Dio perfectly to my knowledge, and surprisingly enough, so does Joker vs Giorno to be honest. I love how much of a presence Dio has in this episode without appearing at all. The way Giorno sits on his throne and the kanji appears being identical to part 1 Dio. The overall smug attitude, the shotgun kicks, the holier than thou palace, this is all Dio's DNA. Even the way Giorno dies, with his body being disintegrated before his head while being surrounded by flames, or how GRE shatters starting from a specific limb, both recall the ways Dio died in part 1 and 3 respectively. And even in the end analysis, over than Dio giving us evidence that the reality warping bypassing attacks can affect the gold experience is a major factor for the loss of his son. Both saw that Giorno identified himself as a JoJo and thus kept the generation hatred going. But it ultimately was Dio's undoing, because if you think about it, Joker essentially exorcised the last remaining essence of Dio left, killing the false vampire god with a silver bullet. Also, given how Joker rarely works solo, you could argue that the rest of the Phantom Thieves are dealing with Pucci and a company while Joker dealt with Giorno, potentially resulting in all of the plans being foiled. Again though, that whole extra ending was just for fun. And much like the one in JoJo vs Makima, I fully understand that including that will just confuse people. Extra ending or not, Joker vs Giorno is very easily 9.5 out of 10 in my eyes, but I can fully understand if you give it a perfect score. They confirmed that this was meant to be the premiere, but I'm honestly glad it wasn't the case because let's be honest, going from this to Omni Bardock would have been a downgrade. Tune in tomorrow for my Bowser vs Eggman reaction. Now I drink lots of water, you do the same. Oku Kriton, hoping I made your day slightly better.